Just Cause 3 is an incredibly fun game full of chaos. And you create this chaos by using guns and explosives, jetpacks, wingsuits, parachutes, cars, explosives, everything at your disposal. And I'd seen a video by Martin Pants where he had done the game as he could without using the grappling hook. Which made me think, what if I did the direct opposite of that and used absolutely nothing else besides the grappling hook? Well, you'll see pretty quickly how that turns out. But hey, we gave it a pretty good shake. I didn't even use WASD if I could avoid it. Now, if you do enjoy the video, please consider liking, subscribing, commenting, all that stuff. I'd really appreciate it. And also follow me on Twitch. That is where we stream all of this stuff. All right, enough of that. Let's get into the video. So, can you beat Just Cause 3 with only the grapple? I'll tell you right now, no. Right at the start of the game in the tutorial, you have to fly by 3 SAM sites. Unfortunately, the 3rd SAM site will always destroy the plane unless you fire the missile launcher at it. In other words, we've immediately failed. But hey, this is the tutorial, so that's probably a fair exception. So we blow it up and, well, next we need to open the parachute. Uh-oh. I kind of cut... Okay, well, again, this is the tutorial, so, you know. We don't unlock the grapple till we hit the ground anyway. So now that we have it, maybe the run can actually begin. Now, for some added context, when I say only the grapple, I mean the grapple and the tethers and nothing else, including movement. I will not be touching WASD if I can avoid it. Now, unfortunately, while we do have the grapple, we don't have the tethers yet. So our only way to deal damage is to grapple kick our enemies. Unfortunately, they don't struggle so much against that. In fact, it took a good few minutes, but we managed to take them out eventually after stomping them on the ground repeatedly. Okay, hold on. I can do this. I can do this. Yes! It only took 30 kicks! That's so many kicks! No, he used the gun! Rico, you failed the run a 3rd time! 4th time, Rico! And a sack tap? Really? And we could move on to the next part of the tutorial, which makes you get in a car. That's another failure. But if we instantly get out, our dear cousin Mario will drive the car, which isn't too much of a rule break, so we're happy with that. After a little driving and fighting, we are faced with a large battlefield of enemies that we need to continually grapple kick to death. This takes ages. And unfortunately, there was a small real-life earthquake, which made some of my things in my PC crash. That's fine. I'll just reset my computer and you can probably start from the checkpoint. From the beginning? Okay. So we did all of that again. And once we get back, it takes around 7 or so minutes of dude kicking to end them all and move on to the next part, which is a timed section across about 1.5 kilometers in just over a minute and a half. Now, normally you would just fly the helicopter there, but we can't do that. And believe it or not, moving purely by grapple is not the fastest way to move in the game. I tried this a half dozen times, a bunch of them just grappling on the ground, and once I gave up on that, I tried grappling with the parachute, and ultimately I got nowhere near close enough to think it's even possible to do this with just the grapple. So we break the rules again, and we fly our way to the destination. A destination that requires killing a bunch of dudes, while the helicopter fires rockets at us, which is something that we can do with the grapple. Now, the guys are a bit of a pain to kill, but nothing really too bad, except for the helicopter, which I can't damage. I was hoping if I grappled to the bottom of it, maybe my collision with it would damage it enough to break it or something like that. It didn't work though. So I thought maybe I could cause it to shoot a rocket against the building and it would maybe blow back on itself. And once again, that didn't. So I had to break the rules another time during this tutorial mission to blow it up with the minigun on top of a roof. But that is the first quest done. And now the real game can begin. And it's probably gonna be completely fine from here, right? The game immediately sends us into the next part and forces us to briefly use the parachute. You can't do anything in this game. So this is kind of also part of the tutorial, and you'll see why I'm saying that in a second. Now, the first good thing which does appear is that we get to unlock the tether, which is by far and away the only reason that I could do half of what I'm able to do in this run. And I consider it to be part of the grapple, which is why we're going to be using it. However, the quest then tells us we have to use the wingsuit. And then the explosives. So more tutorial stuff. It's going to have to be okay. And then we have to hack a SAM site, which is kind of annoying, but it's fine. It's done. Now the real game can actually begin. God, this is awful. Now, just to be clear, if I only had to break the rules a few times during the run, I'd have put a counter on the screen of the amount of rule breaks. The fact that I haven't done that should tell you what to expect for the rest of this run. It's not good, but I committed nonetheless. Now, fortunately, now that we're free, we are a little bit more capable of sticking to the rules. The first thing we do is free a nearby town, and there's not really any problems with just using the grapple. It's certainly a little tedious, and the movement is brutally hard to get around with just that grapple, but it is completely fine at the end of the day, and we definitely don't have to press E on the town flag. I was trying to avoid pressing any buttons that weren't directly related to grappling, looking in a direction, and also tethering, so I was considering pressing E on things and interacting with things, kind of a little bit of a rule break. But if you don't count that, we're doing okay just now. Now, our next and first actual quest is to grab a vehicle and bring it back to the docks. I, of course, don't plan on driving it, so I start grappling it towards our destination. It takes a while and a few attempts. No! 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 And it's definitely the weirdest way I've completed this quest, but it wasn't too much of a hassle. And 10 minutes of tethering later, we do finish this quest, where our reward is... Oh god, and to reward me, they make me press E. Ugh. To use the rebel drop, making us break the rules again. That's fantastic. Okay. Well, moving on. No, don't do it. No, you just saw a man do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Oh! We have to liberate some more of the island to continue with the quests. I get stuck with the heat exchangers in this area because I have gamer brain, quite clearly, but it doesn't take long, after a little bit of searching online, to find them. These are the first of the destructible items that cause me an issue. You see, unfortunately, they can't be broken with just the grapples. So in this case, you have to grapple some explosives towards them. Now, this can be really difficult because if you're not careful, they will blow up before you get them to their destination. And we will see some more issues like that further in the run. But technically, no rule breaks here, except for opening the doors for the heat exchangers. But again, if you're not counting that, we're still good. Now, after liberating the station, we continue to the next island where our quest is. Okay, okay. Sorry. And we come across another issue, a big issue, one that really makes it that this run doesn't work. Like, you really can't beat the game with only the grapple. Unfortunately, there's no way over the islands except for using boats or planes, neither of which I could drive for obvious reasons. And so instead, I tried for ages, hoping that a random boat would maybe just ferry itself to another island. But they seem to all stay on the coast of the island that they start at, meaning we really can't get any closer to the next island. The game does have a safety mechanic in that if you're in the middle of the ocean with no vehicles around you, one will spawn nearby to help you out, but you can't guarantee the direction of the spawn, and often they don't help you get closer to where you're trying to go. So we have to end up using the parachute along with the grapples to get to the other island. Definitely a rule break, but the best compromise I could come up with. It took like 25 minutes after drowning myself twice by accident to get across, by the way. I really did try. Have boats. Uh-oh. Oh, that's not good. Oh, that's not good. You can't grapple underwater. In this next quest, a large portion is dedicated to destroying 3 tanks. Now, usually this takes like 2 minutes. I, however, do not have the luxury of explosives on demand. Fortunately for us, one of the tanks seems to destroy themselves without me even noticing while I'm trying to deal with a different one. And while I'm trying to deal with that one, I start grappling it in towards the town, hoping that I'll find some explosives to grapple towards it. I then, however, get distracted by the other tank and start trying to deal with that. I launch it off the hill that it's on and also directly into the town, and then I get distracted again and go back to the first tank, where I start dragging a car through the town in the hopes that I can blow it up against the tank. It takes a while, but eventually it actually works. So we're then on to the final tank, which took significantly longer and involved grappling a pre-exploded car to the tank in some form of vehicular mating ritual, but eventually we managed to just drag it off a ledge, which seems to reach a level of damage that finally explodes it, progressing the quest. And in this next part, we are to protect Mario's truck with our grapples. And that is mission complete. Now what? Are we done? No way, we actually did a quest without cheating at all? Oh my god. Incredible. We have to try and cross the islands again, which I end up drowning by accident. And, well, that sent us very far away. That's our second drowning of the playthrough. No. No. It spawned me back in here. So we return the same way as before by grappling until the water, where we grapple with the parachute. The next mission has us with another time section, which we actually succeed in, surprisingly. And then a simple grapple to another location to end it. Quick and easy, with no rule breaks for a change. That is nice to see. Our next mission has us grabbing a military vehicle for Mario. Fortunately, getting the vehicle is the easy part and requires no rule breaks. Kind of not... I don't really want that ornament, but that's fine. All right, guys, lock in for 1.3 kilometers of this. Sorry. Sorry about that. However, for some reason, once you have the car and you start trying to grapple it to the next destination, it randomly decides that it's now a timed quest. Why does this game insist on pushing me for time? So, unfortunately, we have to drive it to the final destination because there is absolutely no way we could do that in time. Once we're there, we pick up a guy called Zeno, and then we stand on the roof of the car that Mario is now inexplicably driving. Why couldn't you have just done that at the start? Anyway, after one failure and one reload, we can basically grapple the rest, with one exception to deactivating a SAM site, which might not have strictly been necessary, but I thought it probably was at the time. So I would call that definitely a rule break there. That's another main mission complete. Afterwards, we are required to liberate the whole area that we're in. So we get to work. It takes a decent amount of time and is as tedious as you could imagine it is. But it really is just a time investment more than anything really difficult. The only thing of note is a military installation. The vast majority of the chaos structures in the game, tethers are enough to destroy them. However, there are some limited objects that can't be destroyed so easily, namely the large satellite dish and the radar spires. To deal with the satellite dish, we have to use explosive barrels nearby to destroy as much as possible. But mostly we bait the rocket launching enemies to shoot at us, hitting the dish instead of us to destroy it. We tried the same with the radar spires, but it doesn't work. Luckily, after some more destruction, the enemy scrambles rocket helis, and we're able to bait their rockets to hit the towers with some effort to successfully destroy the radar spires. Once complete, we take on Sima Leon CENTCOM. This is one of the main enemy holdouts that always have some form of aerial protection. In this case, they fire massive airstrikes at your location constantly. There is a mission that you have to do anyway that disables this, but I thought maybe it could come in handy, and they might be able to just destroy their own base on my behalf. So after a few deaths, bearing in mind that progress is saved even if you die, we clear the CENTCOM and fulfill another mission requirement. Funnily enough, once you clear it and it becomes allied, the rockets still fire at the area as long as you're there. I guess they don't expect you to do it this way. The next mission we do, however, is the one that's supposed to turn off the rockets. So we are definitely working backwards here. Unfortunately though, all of these deactivation type missions are massive rule breakers. They require two things that I couldn't just work through with the grapple. One is that you must swim, and while you're swimming, you can't use the grapple. The other is that the generators cannot seem to be destroyed by the grapple. I tried using explosives in the room. That's just the wall. That's also the wall again. That's the wall a third time. And that didn't really do much. That's nice, isn't it? Human bodies, and also even the enemies shooting at me, hoping they'd miss and hit the gens sometimes. Unfortunately, it doesn't work, and so we have to use the placeable explosives to progress the game. Mission complete, and we can immediately start our next back at Sima Leon. Now, this is a warring faction type mission, requiring you to achieve certain fighting conditions to raise your side's bar. The first thing that we need to do is destroy some APC looking vehicles, and this takes me ages. In fact, it takes more than 20 minutes to destroy 3 vehicles through a combination of grappling them to each other, to other smaller and more likely to explode vehicles, and also baiting tanks to shoot at us standing on top of the APCs. We get it done though, and the next part of the mission has us use a wingsuit with no input from me, besides the spacebar, to fly towards a missile that we have to grapple onto. Luckily, it only takes a few attempts to meet with as little cheating as possible, because I didn't want to press anything that I didn't have to, though definitely this one is also still a rule break. So we had to hold W a little bit there, sadly. 2 cheats, spacebar and a W. Oh my god. And that ends what I think is one of the most cinematic moments of the game. And it takes us into a very nice and chilled mission where we have to drive a truck full of wine for a couple of kilometers. Except this turns out to be one of the hardest quests in the game. Because unfortunately, I can actually do this one without cheating. In other words, I have no excuse with this one to drive it to the destination because there's no time requirement, which means I had to grapple it the whole way. And this truck loves to flip. I mean, really, it takes next to no encouragement for it to fall over and spill all of the wine, failing the quest instantly. No, 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 wait, 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 no way. Oh, no. Oh. Fuck. be very careful with our speed from behind. No! 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 It took me an hour and a half of attempts to successfully tether this truck to its destination, including one close attempt that failed due to a random civilian crashing in the back of the truck for unknown reasons. That one actually made me rage quit for that night, but we came back the next day and did complete it. Why did you do that? Why did you do that? Oh! Oh, that took like 40 minutes. I fucking hate you, Mario. God, I fucking hate you. God, I fucking hate you so much, Mario. I want you to know that. I want you to know that I hate you with every fiber of my being, Mario. Oh, it's right there. It's right there. It's right. I literally, I see where we're going. It's right there. Hold on. No shot. Are we gonna make this? Oh my god, that took like an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 40 minutes. Oh, yes. Yes. I would have preferred it if the game made me drive, to be honest with you, because that was so stressful and so awful. But we did it. I'm sticking to the rules, man. As much as I can, I'm sticking to those rules. And the quest after that, in contrast, is actually far simpler, but does require some more cheating, in which we end up needing to use a helicopter. So I land and explode the given one in an attempt to stick to the rules, but very clearly, you need to follow the boats and blow them up. So we steal an enemy helicopter, they're drowning me, and do the bare minimum until we can progress onto the next section. This section has us pilot a boat around some islands. I, of course, would not cheat, so I grapple us the whole way, very slowly, because when I commit, except towards the end where there's no more ocean floor to grapple, and so we drive like a little bit. This then has us defend a boat dock from some enemies, which only gets difficult in regards to the large battleship of the bad guys. It does take a little bit, but I managed to glitch a car into the boat, and that set it on fire and finally destroyed it, finishing the quest. Next up is a mission, starting us on top of a plane. We have to intercept another plane, which I definitely succeed on first time, and have to vent the boat out of the back of it. We jump out, and then end up restarting from the checkpoint to avoid cheating, which immediately spawns us into the boat that we now have to pilot to the mission destination. So again, big cheats. Once we deliver the boat, we grapple to our next location, where we have to use explosives again. I'm gonna put explosives on the bridge. Even more cheating. What a shock. And then we have to get to our next stop, which is a dock in the ocean. So we have to drive a jet ski, cheating, and we arrive to create grapple-related chaos. Not cheating. We do have to cheat a little more to deactivate a SAM site that I couldn't destroy. And then we also have to fly the generators towards the island. More cheating. I blew up my helicopter that I needed. These generators were mega bugged though, so I won't accept complete responsibility for the cheating here. Quest complete upon delivery, leading us to our next quest where we have to steal a tank. That did not work. And this game really does not want you using only the grapple, clearly. I did try, but in my opinion, that is just not possible. There are way too many enemies. So I just drove it to finish the quest as soon as possible. The next mission wouldn't allow us to travel by grapple because it's across the water, and we tried to go around, but it told us we were out of the mission area. So we had to wingsuit parachute a bit across the water, but otherwise it started okay, allowing us to grapple our enemies to death. One more significant game crash later, and we continue grappling our foes, protecting Annika and Teo until they get the heli. Now here we're supposed to protect the helicopter, though there's not a huge amount we can actually do. 4 or 5 tries later, we got some good RNG and survived to the end of the quest. Our next mission has us protect an EMP in a small convoy of friendly vehicles. This quest begins fairly simply, with just a few enemies to kill along with friendly NPCs on guns to help us out. The next part of the mission is driving to another location with more enemies and killing them too, and then driving to another location and killing more enemies, and then enemies chase us while we travel, and then enemies appear at another location for us to kill before activating the EMP and finishing this quest. No real cheating, and not particularly complicated, unless you count arming the EMP, in which case that would be cheating. But other than that, I think we did pretty good. Hold on. Bear with me. Come on. Nope. 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 Yep. I'm trying. I'm trying, guys. I'm trying. There we go. The following mission is one of the other most difficult ones in the game. And it's because it's another example of a mission where I know I can do it with just the grapple, but it will be very, very difficult and certainly very tedious. In fact, it took over 30 minutes to do this because there were so many enemies with big guns in the helicopters and boats in particular. Beyond that, having to keep Mario and the EMP alive was a nightmare. Especially Mario. What's his problem, man? Just hide, bro. You're not that guy. Guys, that was so easy. I didn't even get frustrated once. After completing this mission, we move on to liberating a couple more areas to unlock our next quest. All of those go fairly well, using the techniques we've learned throughout to destroy things we can't with the grapple. That is, with exception to one large radar dish. It took a ludicrously long time to destroy it because we had no enemies with ordnance to explode it for us. In fact, I end up spending an exceptional amount of time grappling random vehicles and explosives in the hope that they'll explode enough parts to break it. And after being insulted by a guy I grappled, he can throw grenades at me. Sorry, did he just do a flyby bitch on me? We found a small supply of explosive barrels that we could use to destroy it. And after 40 minutes, we finally cleared this area. Is this going to be possible? It is? Maybe? Oh no, it's not. That's not good. Come on. Come on. Arc it. Arc it. Let's go. The next mission is another one to turn off power. So pretty much the whole thing needs to be cheated with the swimming and the exploding, same as before, but we stick to the rules where possible, which is certainly a bit of a pain for dealing with the boats and their powerful machine guns. We take on our next liberation mission, which unsurprisingly was just a lot of grappling to each location. It's really funny to see the war progress despite my lack of presence. And once we save this rebel plane, which has taken us to the next location, I decided to actually just stay on it and see where it goes. It flies for just about forever and then dumps me on a random mountain, which was unexpected. More unexpected is that the enemies spawned immediately right by me too, and also the plane blew up. That was also strange. Anyway, we reset to the checkpoint and that has us drive a rebel battleship, which is ultimately also another rule break, along with having to wingsuit to it in the first place. Another rule break. We then have to enter a military base we've been told to destroy, which we locked in for and managed to do with just the grapple, with the exception of another forced swimming section, but otherwise just the grapple, finishing this mission and letting us start the next, which immediately makes us fly a jet. This mission's basically just a write-off, as we've had with some of the other ones, as there is practically nothing we can do, since it's a whole mission just about flying planes. The next one wants us to protect a train for a while, which isn't too bad, because we just tether the helicopters to the ground until they crash. Then we have to destroy another train, which doesn't go so well and we fail. Trying again, we destroy the other train with explosives, breaking the rules once more, but ultimately finishing the mission. And next comes a prison break mission. If I had an eye tracker on right now, I'm only looking at our delts. This one, surprisingly hard. There are enough enemies that are strong enough to cause me significant problems here, particularly minigun guys, as they can completely shrug off the grapple. We tactically make our way through the area with no difficulties at all whatsoever, and complete the mission with not too much struggle, surely. A no cheats mission, a rare and surprising sight. That is nice to see. And the next mission takes us to a new kind of area in the north, and starts with us driving a vehicle down a hill to an airstrip. I, of course, can't do that, so I surf the car down the road, grappling to keep us on track. Unfortunately, however, the car instantly sets on fire and explodes if it turns on its side. Like, instantly. Who made this car? That needs a recall. It's a little annoying, but it doesn't really take that long to get down to the airfield. Unfortunately, it's kind of also another time section, so we can't just grapple onto the plane, making us get in the car, again cheating during a mission. We then have to protect the plane from fighter jets, which surprisingly can be done with just the grapple, which I really was not expecting to work. And upon finishing this mission, we are then told to free more regions to continue doing the main quests. We take on the capital city, as it's fairly small, though still takes almost an hour to clear, and clear an adjacent region as necessary. Nothing stand out here, just more grappling for an egregious amount of time. And as a third location to liberate, I chose the CENTCOM of the area since we need to do it anyway. This one is shooting Bavarium nukes at us, which is a little harder to survive than the explosive airstrike from before. Surely they're not going to nuke themselves. They wouldn't be that insane, right? So, after using them to clear a bunch of stuff out, I leave and clear out something else as I was developing shell shock from the constant explosions going on. It also just wasn't clearing everything, so it was significantly easier to just pick a whole new area, namely the quarry. I thought it would be quick, but it turns out there's some things here that didn't like grappling to death, which made it take so much longer. Nearly an hour, in fact. Once complete though, it did let us do the final sabotage mission by following the pipes, and for a change, not swimming right at the start. Still using explosives, but a little less cheaty. This frees the CENTCOM from the nukes, which lets us start to take care of the remaining chaos objects. A lot of the enemies here are kind of hard to deal with. There are many of them, and some of them are minigun guys, who again don't really react to the grapple at all. More than anything else though, I just couldn't get this large satellite dish. I spent more than 40 minutes on that dish alone trying to get it destroyed. I just couldn't find enough explosive barrels, and I couldn't get helicopters to spawn and do enough damage. It did take a very long time. But finally we destroyed it, taking us into our final missions. I think the reason this is the hardest bit of the game, by the way, is because like unlike some stuff where I've had to accept that like there's nothing I can do about it, this feels like something I can do something about, right? If it was an unavoidable like use, then it would be, that's one thing. But I have integrity, guys. This is the big thing. I have integrity as a man, as a streamer, as a gamer, the most oppressed of all classes. I have integrity. I couldn't possibly break my own rule set. You know what I mean? Yes! 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 It's over! I told you guys I didn't need to cheat. Next up was protecting a rebel outpost. This was also quite hard. Another instance of needing to protect stuff from being destroyed, while we have useless NPCs not helping, and enemy helicopters and tanks doing tons of damage. I had to get tactical, taking out specific vehicles on fresh attempts to try and make sure that we can get to the next part with a checkpoint. Jets were a bit of a problem too, as there were only a few moments that they'd be overhead to be able to grapple onto. They also do a lot of damage on their bombing runs, so you have to make sure you take them out fast. But they're pretty easy to take out once you're on them. We get to the next part of the mission, which is just chasing down a helicopter which we need to destroy. I think you usually destroy it near instantly, but it took me ages of following it to get close enough to grapple to the ground. It was very stressful. Jesus. That was so stressful. And next up was our final Liberation War mission. Slowly getting to each battlefield, destroying vehicles and killing bad guys, and then going to the next place. It was going well until unfortunately one part was just on a random island with jets prowling around it, which I couldn't grapple, and in fact I couldn't even shoot them. I'm not really sure what was going on here. I guess you're supposed to fly your own jet? I don't know. Either way, I reset to the last checkpoint and it just continues the quest for us, which saves us having to do any cheating. And then we have to kill more dudes, and then we have to get to the CENTCOM tower, and then the mission's done. That is the second to last mission, which means we get to start our final mission, and what better way to do it than to have to immediately break the rules to get to the volcano, which is across a lot of water. So I end up just calling in the jet boat to not waste more time than necessary, and head into the volcano to face our final foe, a Bavarian shielded attack helicopter against Rico with a grapple. What should be the most intense fight of the game versus just a simple grappling hook. I really came in here expecting it to be intense and insane, difficult and tedious, but we take it down in seconds, like really underwhelmingly so. You just wait for the shield to run out, and then you tether the wing to the ground and it flips over and explodes. It's hilariously embarrassing. I guess maybe that's the point. And then, believe it or not, right at the end of the game, as the final action of our character in the cutscene, he shoots the bad guy, once and for all confirming, no, you cannot beat Just Cause 3 with only the grapple. Thank you so much for watching this video. This was a really dumb idea, and I regret doing it. It was an absolute tedious nightmare, especially considering it was immediately impossible. That said, it was a very unique way to play the game. I can say that much for sure. Once again, if you enjoyed the video, please consider liking, subscribing, commenting, all that kind of stuff. I'd really appreciate it. And follow me on Twitch, where we do more runs like this. Thank you so much again for watching. Take care, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye, guys. Oh my god, I just had to shoot him. That's the run failed. You can't beat this game by only using the grapple. Damn it. Oh, I'm going to have to start from the start again. Wait, was that... You're joking. The final boss fight, I just attached his wing to the ground and he exploded and that was it? There is a Just Cause 4, I do have it.